everybody, this is Bethany from Cranberry Horn Essentials. We take off the glasses because they're reflecting. As you can see, it's been a busy weekend, and we are transitioning the house. We're going around and moving things around. So one of the things is moving into my former daughter's room, which is now my office. Which will now be our bedroom, which is, it's at the back of the house. So yeah, so it looks a little different in the background. It's got really nice light in this room. I didn't enjoy this room until I started having to spend time in here. I thought I would come on and talk a little bit about, where I get my energy from, my energy readings from, and what is the difference, what is it, okay, let's start it this way. I'm empathic. I've always been empathic. I've been empathic probably all of my life. What is an empath? An empath is someone who, well, the best description I've ever heard of it called is that an empath is someone who reacts first and foremost to the energy in their surroundings. Instead of, some people are very visual. They walk into a room, what they see is what they respond to. An empath responds mostly to the energy in an area. If you've ever walked into a room and people have been arguing, and you feel uncomfortable because you may not have known that they were arguing, but you walk in and you can feel the tension. So that is the energy in the room. As an empath, that's what I've always picked up on, more so than any visual cues that I've ever had. And it wasn't until I got to be older that I developed, I say older, I had some insights on it, but I was probably about 8 or 9 when I first recognized the fact that I had some mediumistic, tendencies, but didn't recognize what they were for a very long time. At that time, I can remember again being in situations where there was a heightening of emotion, and some of it was residual, some of it was, let's put it this way. We had gone to a battlefield in Virginia, Newmarket battlefield. And I think this is the first time I ever really recognized that this was a case. That it wasn't just me. Because I had always been told, oh, you're a sensitive kid. You're just so sensitive. You're too sensitive, too soft, too sensitive. And it took a long time for me to realize that the emotions that I was feeling weren't necessarily mine. That a lot of it could have been brought on by what was going on around me. So we went to Newmarket. My father loves Civil War history. And we were on a trip, and I remember stopping there, and I was right around 8 or 9 years old. And we had been through the museum, and my father and I were standing at the fence looking out over the battlefield. And I remember this just overwhelming sadness come over me. And I could hear people fighting. But again, you say that to an adult and they go, oh, that's nice. You have a great imagination. You should be a writer. I had a lot more of these things go on over the years that were I just discounted. Because like I said, my mother was not a believer. Didn't really understand all of it. Not until she got towards the end of her life was this something that she would consider. And again, she would tell me, you're too sensitive. You need to learn how to just ignore people, which was near to impossible for me. It was just the way it was. And when you're a kid and you don't know how to filter that or to ground yourself or to push back, it can be an extremely difficult situation. So it wasn't until I got much older that I began to realize that that I had mediumistic abilities. And by that, I mean recognizing the fact that one, I could, on occasion, could hear things. I would sometimes know things without being privy to the information. And I had a very deep love of history, always have. I think it comes from my father. So there was definitely some tendencies towards that as well. I've always been drawn to historic locations. My son likes to say that we never went on a vacation that we didn't end up in some battlefield or historical spot. When I was a senior in high school, we took a bus trip to Washington, D.C. And it was a lot of fun. We got to see a lot of things that we wouldn't know. I went with my parents. I think I was 17. It was just before I graduated. Maybe before that, 16, 17. One of the places that we went to was Arlington Cemetery. And again, I found it fascinating, but didn't really know a lot about it. And when we got to the statue of Iwo Jima, I remember standing back, and it was like the scene in front of me focused and shifted and went inward and narrowed. And suddenly, instead of being 200 feet away, it was like I was a mile back. And I just had this really overwhelming sense of needing to cry. And I can remember standing there and the tears just running down. Now, it's an emotional place. When you go to Arlington and you see the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and all of this at JFK's grave, it's a highly emotional place. However, standing at Iwo Jima was overwhelming for me. And it wasn't until later on in my life that I realized that there had been some gatherings, there was something that happened there. There was protests that happened there. And what I was feeling was the frustration and the overwhelming sense right there in that area. That was what I was feeling. So that was at 17. As I said, and part of it was I had kids. You're too busy to pay attention to these things. You don't understand. You don't have time to focus on geez, I'm hearing something. What's going on? And then about I think my daughter was a junior in high school. She's 27. Ghost Hunters came on, and or actually it was just at the beginning of Ghost Hunters, somewhere in there, started becoming the craze. And I remember there was the Travel Channel's show with Yvette Fielding, and I remember thinking, geez, it had everything I wanted. It had history, it had creepy surroundings, and she was doing all of this stuff, and I was really fascinated by it, mostly by the history. I love that stuff. And I thought, oh, if I just got an opportunity to do that, I would do it if that opportunity came up. And a couple months later, that I remember thinking, if that opportunity came up, I would take it. And I was upstairs watching it, and all of a sudden, there was a huge bang in the basement. The lid on the washing machine had been up, and it came down. It scared the crap out of me. But I thought, there we go. So fast forward. I'm talking with somebody online about some standing stones that were in my area, and come to find out it's in a forum on history, and I get talking to Kat from Maine Ghost Hunters, and she's like, well, we have a gathering this weekend. We're doing a gathering at, I think it's Elm Cemetery in Westbrook. Do you want to come? And I was like, sure, I'll come. So I went to that, and I remember being, not quite sure what I was getting into, but thoroughly enjoying it. I liked the people. I really got along well with Tony and Kat and David. It was fantastic. And I thought, okay, this is good. I can do this. And she said, well, we have an investigation coming up next week. Do you want to go? And I said, sure. So that was my opportunity. It came and it fell in my lap. And I had let go of how it was going to happen, or who was going to do it, or how it was going to happen. But the opportunity came to me. The first time that we went on an investigation, I'll just tell this story real quick, and then I'll get to the story that I was going to tell. We were in Booth Bay, and I remember I was sitting in a rocker. We were talking about the inn. I knew absolutely nothing about the history of the building, and they wanted it that way, which was fine. I'm okay with that. And I remember getting this just really, really overwhelming sharp pain that came from the back of my head and went right down my neck. And I remember going, oh, ow, or whatever, letting on the Cat said, were you okay? And I said, yeah, I just have this massive, massive pain in my head. Well, come to find out after that, and she told me this much later. She didn't tell me at the time, but she told me much later that an elderly couple had been killed there, and he had been hit with an axe in the head. So that kind of was like, okay. So I went on and I did other investigations with them, and to this day, they're my favorite people, I swear. It's nice to know that people who don't think that you're nuts for understanding things like this. So yeah, I was going to tell a story about, I was talking about empathic abilities and the difference of recognizing the energy. And sometimes the energy can be so strong that you feel it on your skin. And I've had this happen to me a couple of different times. So, some fairly big ones. But this time that I'm talking about was a few years back. I don't know how long ago it was. I was working for a grocery chain here. I worked for them for almost 18 years. And at one point there was a strike and of another company, and we were asked to go to New Hampshire to support the stores that were down there because they were getting inundated because this other large chain had had a strike. And they were just getting nailed with customers, which was great because, you know, hey, yay, we never got overtime. And they offered to put us up, and they paid our travel. I mean, it was fantastic. It was better than I ever could have imagined. So I probably did this for like, it was 2 or 3 months this went on. I was traveling back and forth, and I would spend 2 or 3 nights in a hotel, come back. We'd be working down there, whatever was needed. You worked all day. I was a manager at the time. I think I was an assistant manager. Maybe I was a shift leader. I don't remember. And so we would go down and just do whatever needed to be done. So this was one of the last times that I had gone down, and I was in New Hampshire, and I was near Manchester, somewhere in there. And I had worked I think this was this was the only night I was supposed to stay at this hotel. They put me into a hotel that was it was a newer hotel. It was a business class hotel. It was nothing fancy. It was like a, I don't know, a Comfort Suites or something. That wasn't the brand. It was that kind of a hotel. It was for comfort. It was for business, I mean. Nothing fancy on the outside. I didn't care because at that point I was so tired that I would have taken anything. And I was only like 2.5 hours from home. But I said, you know, I'm going to take the room. They offered me a free room. So I had called the husband and said, I'm going to the hotel and check in. I'm going to grab something to eat, and then I'm going to crash. And he's like, okay. I said, I'm supposed to be, I'll come home in the morning. When I'm done, I just, you know, I'm exhausted. And he said, okay. So I did that. I just did that. I took my stuff up to the room, came back down. I went and got something to eat, and I came back to the hotel, and I went up to my room, and I thought, oh, I'd really like to have some ice. So I turned the TV on, and I went out of the room and took the little bucket, and I was walking down the hall, and I got down. It was at the very end of the hall was the little cutout where they have the little room with the vending machines and the ice machine. And I started to go towards that room, and it was like I hit a wall of energy. It was like it just stopped me. I was like, whoa, immovable at force. That's how strong the energy was. And so I stepped back. I thought, this doesn't feel very good. And I tried to shrug it off. I thought, so I guess I don't need ice. So I turned around and I went back to the room. So I said, okay. I was watching TV. I had a hoodie sweatshirt on. I like to sleep with the hoodie on and keep the air conditioner on and the hoodie on. And I used to sleep with the TV on when I would go traveling. And I got into bed, and it was the most horrendous feeling that somebody was in that room with me. I had the lights on. I had the TV on, low. There wasn't like anybody else on that floor. Nothing. It was the creepiest feeling I have, and there was nothing to give it away. There was it was a nice, clean hotel. There wasn't anything out of place. It looked brand new. There was nothing creepy about that hotel whatsoever, except that energy. And I remember trying to go to sleep and feeling like somebody was staring at me and being more and more uncomfortable the longer it went on. So eventually, I got up. At one point I remember pulling, and I'm the type of person, we would go into do an investigation, and I don't get freaked out easily. It's not my nature to be freaked out easily. I was freaked out this night. I remember trying to sleep, couldn't sleep because somebody was staring at me. I remember the bathroom light was off and then it was on. That was one part of it. And I couldn't remember if I put it on or not. But I knew that I had kept the lights on in the room because I was freaking out. So eventually, I was trying to sleep. I pulled the hood of the hoodie down so I can't see anything, because I think if I can't see anything, then I'll be okay. You know, that childish thing that you hide under the covers and you'll be safe. It wasn't working. The energy just kept getting heavier and heavier in that room. So eventually I got up, threw everything, stayed in my pajamas with my hoodie on, threw everything in a suitcase, zipped it up, and headed for the door. I grabbed everything I had and went out, and I remember going by the desk, and the guy's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I just gotta leave." And he's like, "Is everything all right?" And I said, "I live 2 hours from home. I'm just going home." And I drove home, and then I got home at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was so freaked out the whole way. It was the energy that I felt was somebody who was the word that comes to mind is desolate. They were so spiraled so far down that that was the energy they were putting off. And it scared the crap out of me. And honestly, I had a hard time. I think I had one more hotel that I had to stay in, and it was, man, do I really want to walk in it? Now, I've run into energy before like that, where it's just a wall. I've never felt like I'm scared this thing is going to follow me home. And I really was terrified of that one. And I did a lot of calling on my spirit guides and relatives to cover my butt for that one. So yeah, so just because a hotel doesn't look haunted or creepy doesn't mean that it can't be haunted or creepy. There's a point there. So there's your creepy October story. I have some more. Maybe I'll tell them some other time. We'll see. But I thought it was a good opportunity for me to come in and talk about the difference between an empath, being an empath, and because an empath and a medium are not the same thing. I think a medium can have empathic abilities, but an empath is not always a medium. A medium communicates, an empath feels. Does that make more sense? So, and my level of abilities is hit or miss. I've had times when it worked and times when it didn't. So it's not something that I've ever really been able to control. It comes when it wants and it goes when it goes. So, so that's your story time for Sunday night. I thought I would do that in honor of October. Thanks for joining me for my creepy story. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put them down below and I'll answer them for you. If there's anything else you'd like to know, let me know. So for tonight, I hope you are all healthy and happy and stay safe, please. This is going to be a crazy week ahead. We're going into Mercury retrograde. Cover your butts. All right. Bye.